Hello, and welcome to Ending Physician Overwhelm. I'm your host, Dr. Megan Mello. I'm a family and obesity medicine physician, as well as a certified life coach for physicians. In this podcast, we talk about how the learned habits of people-pleasing, perfectionism, and a lack of boundaries show up in our lives and how they contribute to burnout, exhaustion, and overwhelm. The healthcare system is broken, my friends, but let's not wait for it to be fixed in order to feel better. Hello and welcome to the show. Today I have another special guest with me, Dr. Mary Leung. Dr. Mary Leung is a hematology and oncology specialist, and she practices in Long Island, New York. She trained at University of Buffalo Medical School, and she recently opened her own business as a certified coach, in addition to being a full-time employed physician. And I love these notes here. She loves the beach and she loves dessert. So right into my heart. Dr. Mary, thank you for joining me and welcome to the show.
And thank you for having me today.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice to talk with you. I'd love for you to share your story. I think when we talk about our experiences with burnout and frustration in our work, it's just really important to hear in each person's story, like, what did this look like for you? What were you thinking about? What was going on, that kind of led you to this point where you said, I need to do something differently?
Mm-hmm. So I started with when I was young. I grew up in Hong Kong and my parents were both physicians. They never forced me into the medicine route. And I just enjoyed seeing how they were talking about their patients, how they were, looking into each other's guidance and treating patients while they're having dinner. They really enjoyed it, and they never seemed to be burned out to me. So it was just natural for me to think that, hey, I wanted to help people. Being a doctor was the thing to do to help people and really have fulfillment in life. So when I was growing up, it was just kind of, I think once you decided to be a doctor, it's kind of like a stepwise approach that is pretty much set, that you would graduate from college, go to medical school. The next step would be residency and maybe fellowship, and then you'll be the attending. So I thought, okay, I was getting through step by step, going through the motions. It wasn't easy, but I went through them. And I thought that once I was an attending, that would be it. I would be at the top of the world. I made it, right. And I remember when I first became an attending, I was kind of thinking to myself, oh, that was it. I did not feel any different from being the fellow the other day. I was still doing the same things as I was a fellow. Well, I joined a private practice and in a working in a community hospital. So I did not have any fellows. I did not have any residents to work with. So essentially, I was just being a super fellow and accept a lot more responsibility to take care of my patients. And so as I was starting, they started to fill up my schedule gradually. And in a few months, my schedule was pretty much full. And I was seeing 25 to 30 patients consistently, both in benign hematology and oncology. And I thought, okay, I could handle this. I was, doing my best, taking good care of my patients. I was dealing with death and dying sometimes. And of course, that sometimes could take an emotional toll. And I would take things personally sometimes. And I just started to feel drained, tired. And I thought that, oh, that must be a normal thing, because I think everyone, would go through the same situation scenario, and I would just kind of ignored it. So then time went on, and more patient load, more responsibilities, and I was getting home later and later.
Mhm.
Started to have kids, and of course I wanted to see my family, my young kids, and I felt like I didn't have my own time, because I really did not have my time. When I was charting till 7 o'clock at night, I would go home, see my kids, they would go to bed, I would chart some more, and then, you know, came 10, 11 o'clock, it would be time for me to go to bed. So I could get up in the morning and be at the office again at 7:15. So this went on, and I started to feel like this is not what I signed up for. This
Mhm.
is not what I wanted. I don't know how long I could last, not to mention that can I even retire, at some point in my life if I have to keep working like this. And I started to think about leaving the practice. I started to think about, you know, just quitting altogether. But then at the same time, I was thinking, well, what would I do? And there was this also at the back of my mind, that the expectations from other people, especially from my parents, from my family, that there's this, I think, in culturally, in the Chinese culture, especially, um, being a professional, for example, being a lawyer, a doctor, they're considered to be professional occupations that are highly regarded. And I did not know if, people would think of me differently if I quit and just be a stay-at-home mom, or, do something entirely different. I did not really want to explore that.
Yeah.
So I just continued to do my job, and I was not happy. I felt like I was just stuck in that situation. I did not want to move, because I already moved away from my family in Hong Kong. I didn't want to move away from my in-laws. And I actually one of the few lucky people who get along with my in-laws very well. And they
It's a
help take care of
blessing.
my
We'll keep
kids.
it.
So so then I really didn't know what to do, but then I just kept going and going, and I just felt helpless. I felt more irritable, and
Mm.
I would catch myself sometimes even yelling at my kids, my husband, almost sometimes not really with a particular reason.
Mhm.
And I would feel not rested at night, partly because I would just get 5, 6 hours of sleep when I
Mhm.
probably need 7 to 8. And and I didn't really want to do anything else. Like weekends, I used to want to hang out with my friends, do something outside of work, but I would feel like I just wanted to stay home and do
Mhm.
nothing
Yeah.
and just be myself,
Yeah.
by myself.
Yeah.
And that was not me. And I just felt, that, oh, I was just really burnt out, that I did not want to feel anything. I wasn't really feeling anything,
Mhm.
and I was supposed to think of other people first. Thinking about myself was not in my vocabulary, really.
Right. Always
So
last.
always last, because and that, I guess, I did not learn from going on a plane and having the oxygen mask put on myself first before putting on other people's mask.
Yeah.
And so that went on, and then the pandemic came. Of course, I think most people don't want the pandemic to happen. I did not want that to happen. So many people died, so many people were sick. But looking back, it was, a blessing for me. And I do believe that from, anything bad, you can always find a blessing, find something good out of it. So during that time, I actually was only seeing about a third of my patient load. And so I had time to explore things outside of work. And I was able to experience how it was like to have time for myself
Mm,
and my family.
mhm.
And at the same time is I came across a physician online group. And so I joined it. I was curious and seems like they were talking about physicians doing things outside of clinical work. And that's when I came across life coaching. I had no clue what life coaching was. I thought
And you're
coaching was
not
just for,
alone.
right? I was like, what is that? And then so because I was curious, I just joined one of those free group coaching sessions. And I was listening, paying attention, and that really made sense to me that, hey, how we're feeling was really because of how we're thinking about certain situations and not necessarily because of the situation itself. It's only because we have a thought about it or our perspective about it. And we always act on how we feel. And of course, what we do affect our results. So it's like, wow, that really makes sense. And so I wanted to learn more, and I joined a women physician coaching program. And that's when I learned, just really opened the world to me that so many people are feeling the same way that I was feeling, probably still feeling right now. A lot of
Mhm.
physicians,
Yeah,
since about 70% of us are moderately to severely burned out.
yeah.
And so part of it with the one-on-one coaching portion, I was working with my coach. I figured out that my ultimate goal is, besides helping people, I wanted to spend time with my family. And in order to do that, I wanted to cut down my charting time and not chart till 7 and beyond every day. So then with my coach, we're able to figure out that, hey, I wasn't able to chart on time before was because what I was thinking.
Mm,
So at the second half of the day, I would start to think that I'm so tired. How can I see so many more patients? I'm falling behind. I don't want to keep the patients waiting. So I started to sacrifice my charting time
mm.
and just to keep the patients more on time and just stack the whole pile of charts at the end of the day. So by then I was already tired. And if you're not writing your chart right away, it just takes you that much longer, probably 2 times to 3 times longer the time that it would take had
Yeah.
you done it right away. And so then I figured out, oh, interesting. And so by changing how I was thinking about it, I was able to actually shorten my charting time. So instead of thinking that, you know, it was just too many patients for me to handle, I was focusing more on I'm the person who finishes my chart on time so I can go home to see my family. So when I was thinking that, I was able to be more focused and
Mm,
determined to do that. And I would just keep doing that throughout the day. And besides doing that is I would more have more compassion toward myself. That,
mm.
if sometimes if I couldn't finish it right away, especially in the beginning,
Yeah.
I'll say, it's okay. You did the best that you could. And I would just keep reminding myself to have that positive energy, because you know what? Yes, I know the concepts of coaching, but if you don't practice it, it kind of, you just go back to where you were. So you kind of have
Absolutely.
to, do the practical work of it. And so the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. So So in about 3 months or so, I was able to cut down my charting time by 2 hours a day.
2 hours a day,
Yes, consistently. And
consistently, 10 hours a week, less time charting.
that was amazing. And when I first accomplished that, I was in awe. At first I did not know what to do with my time. I was like, oh, I'm home with my kids. They
What
were
do
at
I
home.
do with an extra 10 hours a week?
So it was really, really amazing. And of course, well, in the midst of it is because I wanted to learn more about coaching, I joined the certification program for life coaching. And so I learned more in depth about, this simple concept of, thinking and feeling and our action. And so then now when I look back at my life, I cannot go back there. I cannot go back
Mm,
to where I was charting long
yeah.
hours. And I just wanted to now share with other physicians that, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. It takes some practice, but if this way doesn't work, maybe other ways, or just having the focus, simple focus on one thing or two things, then you can have that positive energy to fuel you to do what you want. And so I
Yeah.
think that's like the biggest take home message that I've learned from coaching. And and also the other thing is, just feeling the burnout, the overwhelm. Yes, it feels so real. It feels like it's impossible to get rid of. It feels like, it's impossible to conquer. But then if you take a step back and be a little bit more curious about it, just to ask yourself, is it true? Is there some other way to think about things? And I think when you start to be curious, you're a little bit more lighthearted about the whole situation. And then your brain just opens up, as opposed to if you're just criticizing yourself that, oh, I shouldn't be burned out at all. I should just be happy in my job. This is like the
Just
wrong.
grateful and serve all the people. And
Mhm.
yeah.
So I feel like, with that curiosity, the lightheartedness, the gratitude, and just being present, like all these things just help me to become the person that I am today, and accomplish the goals that I can accomplish. And I really want to share this, just this very simple concepts, not the easiest things to do,
Mhm.
but doable, with other physicians, that, hey, before you think about quitting or leaving your current job situation, just be curious. Hey, is there anything else you can do to change things around? Like me, I cut down my charting time. And so now I'm still working full time, but I have time to spend with my family, and also I have time to have my coaching practice.
Yeah. I think there's so many powerful little bits in your story, normalizing, how many people are out there are just like, well, I want to quit. I feel stuck. I feel unhappy. I feel like I was supposed to win the prize and the prize isn't that satisfying. And yet, sort of with the rigidity that comes with burnout, often we're just thinking, well, I can't leave my salary behind. I don't know what else I would do for work. I don't want to stay home, or we can't afford for me to stay home, or any number of things. And then we just kind of stop considering options, right? I think about burnout often feels like you're kind of stuck in a tunnel
Yeah,
and you can only kind of see one direction. Um,
exactly.
and your focus is just so narrow. So thank you for sharing those parts. And then also really highlighting, so many of us want to do things like we want to chart, we want to spend less time charting. We want to, make those parts of our job easier, but
Hmm.
we focus on those actions. We don't focus on the thinking. We don't focus on how we're feeling. We weren't brought up in that framework, most of us. But for you, you were able to, through coaching, sort of learn that, hey, if I want my charting and my clinic day to go easier, if I want those actions to change, I need to look at those thoughts and feelings, especially as you highlighted in the afternoon, when I start feeling a little tired and I hear, kind of thoughts of like resisting, kind of the reality of like, how can I I don't know that I can keep going. This seems like too many patients and, like there's too much work, and wanting not to keep them waiting and letting all of those probably mostly subconscious thoughts derail you from getting the work done. Right.
Yeah. And also I think a lot of times is we use our willpower to do things. And I never realized it until coaching that willpower, yes, it does work, but it only works for a little while.
Right.
And before you know it, you're kind of in the worst place where you started.
Yeah.
And, and kind of, I think with, again, it's really the positive energy versus the negative energy, like the negative energy as in like the frustration, the anger, um, the the stressful feeling, all those things are really not helpful in accomplishing what we want to accomplish in a good way.
Yeah.
And I think what something else helps me is my coach taught me to really just celebrate even little wins, throughout the day. It's kind of like, when she first asked me, "Oh, what went well this past week?" I was dumbfounded. I was like, "What?
Nothing.
What do you
Everything's
mean?"
terrible.
Right. I was like, "What do you mean? What went well?" And then, I had to really dig deep to find. I was like, I mean, there's definitely something that went well, but I didn't know to think of those things, to focus
Mhm.
on those things. And then, of course, as time went on, it was easier for me to pick things up actually as they go on, that things went well. And so I actually started with my kids, they're 10 and 13, to ask them every night. I was like, "What went well today?" So it is really fun. I think what I wanted to uh, bring up is that even throughout the day, like say if you have 20 patients to see, for example, and after you see one or two patients, say, "Hey, yay, 2 patients down and just 18 more to go," or something
Yeah.
like that. Just
Yeah.
just kind of psych yourself up a little bit.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why
It
not?
doesn't hurt you. If anything, it actually gives you more positive fuel to to just go on the day. And I think, especially at least for me, the second part of the day, I need more encouragement for myself, and which is okay. You know
Yeah.
what? It works.
Why not use, kind of self-kindness and encouragement rather than, I mean, we have proven by being where we are that we can white knuckle our way through a whole
Mhm.
heck of a lot, right? We can
Yeah.
hold retractors in the OR for 12 hours when we can't even see what's going on, but we're excited to be there because we finally arrived. But, we've proven that we can do really hard things.
Mhm.
And I think for so many of us, we continue to think, um, that we should just keep driving ourselves harder and harder. But you're right, like that frustration, the irritability, the anger, do we want to use those to keep us on the path? Or do we want to back it up and think, how can I think differently about the situation? How can I, think about, being encouraging to myself and, changing my thoughts so that I feel more positively about how I'm doing things, that I can get my charting done, more quickly and really stay focused on those things that are so important, and then get the reward of I have more time, I have
Mhm.
more energy. And it took some work to get there, but totally worth it.
Exactly. And that doesn't only affect ourselves, it affects other people and our patients, our
Absolutely.
family. And the other day, my nurse practitioner was just saying that, "I noticed this past year you're so different. You're
Mm,
so much happier." I was like, "Yeah, I am."
yeah, I am.
Because I don't feel burnout anymore. I mean, I
Yeah.
know how to manage my mind. I know, if it's a long clinic day that I have, close to 30 patients to see, it's okay. I'm going to
Yeah.
get it done. And I'm going to not get myself feel overwhelmed because I just don't do overwhelm anymore.
Love it. And speak a little bit, because of course we continue to have, days that are tougher than others. We continue to have, through the flow of life, right? Situations that make us, the uh, situations that are appropriate for us to feel sad about, or, to feel
Mhm.
anger or irritability and frustration. How do you, sort of keep up the practices that you're using so that you don't find your habits backsliding? Because of course, again, I think a lot of us are used to sort of white knuckling our way into new
Mhm.
habits, but it's very quickly to fall off that wagon when we're feeling more stressed or more tired or more anxious. So tell us a little bit about kind of the maintenance phase of these great, sort of shifts that you've been through.
Yeah, I think every day is a maintenance day. And one of the biggest things that I learned is really awareness,
Mm.
aware of how, how we're thinking of things, how we're feeling. And, I think in medical school, we weren't taught to feel. I don't think we were
We were
really
taught
taught to feel
to
at all.
numb it out.
Yes.
Be stoic, be professional. We don't
Right.
have time
Professional
for
meaning not
sadness.
feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, which is not the way to go if we want to live, a fulfilled life. So, have the awareness of how we're thinking and feeling, and acknowledge our feelings because we're human beings. We are not expected to always feel all the positive emotions. We have the whole spectrum. It's okay to feel angry sometimes, and just notice that when you feel angry, it's why are you feeling angry? Is it because that, oh, because I think that that person upset me, and they should not have said something, you know
My
or
kids
something.
would stop making me angry, then I would never be angry.
Right. Or they still stop playing on their iPads or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And just, I think, yeah, be aware of your thinking and feeling, and acknowledge that they exist, and just identify the situation, the thought and the feelings, and just also be curious about, hey, are there other ways to think of the situation? The answer is, it's always a yes,
It's
and we
always a
just have
yes.
to find what other ways to think of it, and that's back to where the curious part works, because when you're curious, you're just kind of like, oh, let's poke on this situation, or poke on this thought. Can I think of it some other way? And it's just much better than really yelling at yourself, beat up yourself, and because that's not very helpful, and that's not very kind to yourself either. So I think the maintenance phase is really, besides having self-compassion, is really the awareness, and the curiosity. And I also think that gratitude is very important. I always wake up in the morning and be thankful that I'm alive, and that I get another day to help people. And I think just even things big or small that I could be thankful for, it's just makes you feel better. It makes you feel good. And I think also with the feelings is, once you identify that, say you're feeling angry, how does it feel in your body? Just
Mm.
really feel it,
Like, what
experience it.
are the sensations that you're having?
Right.
Yeah,
And what part of
yeah.
your body, how does it feel? What temperature is it? Like, is it kind of radiating out, or kind of like close in, like something like that. And just don't resist that you're feeling angry, because I think the more you resist it or avoid it, the more it will come back and bite you even
Hmm.
even worse.
Yeah.
So I think just being able to have the whole spectrum of emotions and feelings that really helps with our well-being. And I think the other thing is just to be just know what your ultimate goal is and do
Mm-hmm.
things in alignment with your goal. So for me is, besides helping people, I want to spend time with my family. So whatever choices I make, whatever goals, little goals that I make, it's getting toward that, spending time with my family. Spending time with my family can be just you know um, being at home watching a movie, going to the beach, or just eating dessert together, my favorite things. So but yeah, so I think be in alignment with your values is very important, because when you're out of alignment, I think you suffer and other people suffer too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's so important. It's not protecting us, and we don't want to protect ourselves from all emotions. We want to be able to feel them,
Hmm.
but not to be, yeah, resisting them, not to be continuing to numb them away. We've talked on this show about yeah, like learning to allow your emotions, because
Hmm.
we were very specifically taught to not show too much emotion. When it came to patient care, somehow demonstrate compassion and empathy, but not too much. And and certainly don't have human emotions, kind of in response to your patients. So I
Which
think
is kind of
that's
a challenging
it
thing
is a
to do,
challenge.
especially in my medical oncology aspect of things,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because I feel like I'm a human being, and for patients that I've known for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and that I'm relatively close to, and they're say they're having progression, or even in
Right.
the dying process, and I am actually not afraid to share with them my emotions, because
Yes.
we've no they're like almost my friends, my
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
And and I know the families especially, and I think it is okay to let your patients and the family know that, hey, I'm a human being too, and I'm doing my best. I don't beat myself up. Well, I used to,
Yeah.
when I give someone chemo, and and the outcome was not what I expected, I would
Mm,
beat myself up. I was like, how come that didn't work? Even though I was following all the guidelines
sure.
that there was. And
Blaming
then I
yourself
blaming
for
myself for something I
the
did not do
therapy
wrong.
not working on their disease, right? Yeah.
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 And I just, at some point, I just realized, hey, there is really no point in stressing about things that we cannot have control of.
Yeah.
We just, we do our best in things that we can control. And whatever we can not control, things are going to happen the way that they're supposed to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's such good stuff for people to ponder as they listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts of, like, what do you want a physician who's out there listening, who is currently feeling as you did, feeling really stuck, feeling like they're on the hamster wheel, where they go to work, they see the patients until too late, doing charts, and then maybe see their kids a bit, and then hop back on the computer and finish that, and then start the next day. What do you want them to know right now?
That there is a different way, there's a different option. They may not see it right away, which is normal. And
Mm-hmm.
and just be, you know have the open mind to explore other possibilities, that instead of thinking that, yes, sometimes working 12 to 14 hours is, it sounds unreasonable, because you're thinking that I should be just working 8 to 10 hours, which is fine. But realizing that that's the thinking that is causing you to feel all stressed out and burned out. And yes, a lot of times is, our relatively harsh job situation affect how we're thinking of life and other things. um, and when you feel really down, stressed, overwhelmed, just take a step back and say, hey, there's always a choice. There's always an option. It's just a matter of if you're willing to take that option. If you want to take the option of not feeling overwhelmed and look into into your head, into your mind, and really explore how else can you think of the situation. And I would actually encourage that before you think about quitting your job altogether or completely changing your environment. Because if you carry that same thought with you, no matter how many times you change, you may still have that same, overwhelmed and stressed feelings coming up, back at you.
Absolutely. And that can happen even if you chose not to take another job and to stay home with or without children or any other responsibilities. You might carry those same thoughts with you and still feel unhappy and overwhelmed. Yeah. And of course, you and I share a bias on the power of coaching and how helpful it is, especially, to have someone who does similar work to you sit down with you and really help to kind of pull some of these thoughts out of you. Because of course we are capable as physicians of doing so much, right? We can really hustle and do hard work, but sometimes we need a guide. Sometimes we need a little bit of help to get inside our own mind and really figure out what thoughts are helpful or not, or true or not. And really explore that part. So I'd love for you to share with my listeners, some of the work that you do as a coach and where they can find out more about the work you are doing.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I do believe that everybody should have a coach, and I'm still being coached personally, and I feel like sometimes even though the concept of the of coaching, of how to manage your mind, when you're in it deep, sometimes you just need someone to kind of point things out. Then you say, oh yeah, that's right. So a coach is kind of like your guide to point things out, as you mentioned. Sometimes a coach can be like just like a mirror to reflect your thinking, or just to encourage you, to cheer you on, to to encourage you to do things that may not be very comfortable, but if you do it, you may have accomplished much more than you expected. So what I'm doing is I'm doing one-on-one coaching program with physicians, and just share what I've learned, and I'm still learning about how to manage our minds and how to feel better, to regain control in your lives, and to really be focused on how important it is to be in alignment with your values, and to have gratitude always, and be curious and lighthearted. So I think all these values are very important for a person's well-being. So I'm doing my one-on-one coaching program. It's a 3-month program with physicians that is with a 12 one-week sessions to help people that I can help.
Oh, that's great. And where can people find out more about working with you?
Yes, so physicians can check out my website, www.shiningwithgratitudemd.com, or they can email me at shiningwithgratitudemd@gmail.com.
Perfect. And we'll put links to that in the show notes for anybody who is interested. Dr. Mary Leung, thank you so much for speaking with me today. There's so much in your story that echoes in my story. And so it just has been great to sit down and, hear also once again that I am not alone, because none of us are alone in the thoughts and feelings that we've struggled with. So thank you so much for sitting down with me today.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah. All right, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, bye-bye.
Well,
That's our show for today. Thank you as always for listening. To learn more about my coaching programs, head to www.healthierforgood.com. And if you love this podcast, please drop us a review on iTunes or support the show by clicking the link in the show notes. Until next time, take care.